Well, hello there and happy Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about the journey, your scary journey that you've embarked on when your loved one was diagnosed with dementia. You know, People go and they get married, right? And they say for better, for worse, and sickness and in health. And and when something like dementia comes up, sometimes that can make you question that decision, right? Um, so I want to talk to you about being successful in the early stages or even in the late stages of dementia as a caregiver, your journey and what that looks like. Because the more we can set you up for success now, the better off you will be. So in these early stages, I just got off of a call with someone, and we were talking about the fact her husband was just newly diagnosed. She wanted to start putting together a personalized care plan. And so we were working on that together. And I asked her, some questions that can you handle him at home right now? Yes, of course I can handle him at home right now. Well, let's look into the future, and what does that look like if he starts to have behaviors, and if he starts to wander? Are you going to be able to handle that then? And she is a very tiny, small frame person and didn't quite think that far ahead. So I think if we start to talk about these things as early as the diagnosis, or when we start to notice changes in our loved ones, the better off we are in the future. The easier it will be for you to be equipped and to handle different situations that might come into play. But I really want to emphasize, whether you're the spouse or whether you're the child, and now there's a role reversal where you're taking care of your loved one, the earlier on you start to set these priorities, they'll become a habit. So later they won't seem um, so taxing to try to get the things in that you want or that you need. Because I do believe that even though you are a caregiver, that you should still have balance. And I know those of you that I've talked with and worked with, balance is a really hard thing, especially in those later stages. But the earlier we can set those habits, the better off you will be. So as you step into this caregiving role, I want you to consider the following three things that I think are really super essential. And when I'm working with patients and their families, these are the things that I try to help them put in place. Number one is prioritize your well-being. Giving a care or being a caregiver is emotionally and physically taxing. In the beginning, when you're getting that new diagnosis, it's emotionally taxing because this is not what you signed up for. You expected to retire and live your life with your person and go and travel and spend time with the grandkids. And so suddenly you've got this new diagnosis and your whole world is changing. So, and physically, it can be physically taxing later on in life when your person becomes more dependent. So the changes in behavior and cognition changes associated with dementia can add a huge layer of complexity to caring, because once your person starts to become more dependent or repetitive or those kind of things, you need to make sure that your mental health and your physical health are in order. So it's crucial to safeguard your own health and emotional well-being. I've suggested journaling. I've suggested, taking walks. Sometimes that might not be possible if your person can't be left home alone. But if you have a backyard that you can still kind of keep an eye on your house, making sure to get outside and get a breath of fresh air, take off your shoes, ground yourself, and get back into nature. If you're a gardener, maybe having like a small flower garden on your back porch. But acknowledging that there's going to be some challenging days, and for you to seek support when you need it, and understand that your well-being is very, very important and integral to providing effective care. If your health starts to suffer, which oftentimes in caregivers it does, if your health suffers, you can no longer care for the person that you want to be caring for. Combat those feelings of guilt by recognizing that sometimes saying no is okay, and that's a part of maintaining your balance. We have to treat each person with dementia as an individual because one size does not fit all. So just because you say no, you shouldn't feel guilty for that decision, because you have to look at your person and decide, is my person capable of doing this, and I'm doing this for them because I feel that I have to, I want to, or I absolutely need to. So recognizing those feelings of guilt by saying no at times, it's going to be normal. It's going to be a thing that you're going to experience, but just know that no is okay depending on where your person is in their disease. Establishing a routine. Creating a routine tailored to both you and your loved one with dementia is key. You have to maintain that balance, right? Because your loved one has their capabilities and preferences and physical needs, and you have your daily routines. So looking at their strengths, their weaknesses, and what time in your schedule or their schedule is best for activities. If your person didn't shower in the morning, well then, by heavens, do not make them shower in the morning. If they are refusing you and you're sitting there fighting them and wrestling them to get them into the bathroom, but they were a nighttime shower, well, you have to remember where they were and what they did prior to their diagnosis, because those old memories are still there. Those old habits are still there. So you just want to make sure that you're paying attention to what their previous routines were. By crafting that personalized schedule, you will bring structure to your day and a sense of predictability, even when things become unpredictable. Because we know we can start our days one way, and within a minute or two, they can definitely end up in another way. Your person can end up waking up in a good mood, but they don't like what you've offered them for breakfast. So within 2 minutes, your person has gone from happy and elated to throwing their bowl of oatmeal at you. But making sure that you're creating a routine will provide a little bit of structure for you. I've actually suggested that some people print off calendars. I still use paper calendars, believe it or not. I'm very dependent on my paper calendar during my week. I do use a digital calendar, but I like the visual in front of me. So will your person. And most people with dementia can still read. You're just going to have to make the calendar a little bit bigger than this for them. Putting it right in their visual field and yours so that they can kind of check that schedule and see doctor's appointment today, so that, the day before you can remind them if they haven't showered in a week, hey, it's time to get in the shower. You have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Let's go check the schedule. Also, keeping a whiteboard. This is really super important, because if your person is repetitive, like what time is dinner, what time is breakfast, where are we going, what are we doing, you can use that whiteboard again in a very obvious place. I suggest putting it maybe on your refrigerator or somewhere in the kitchen that your person visits. And you can write things on there that are a little less, things that change. So if this week you've got a doctor's appointment, you can highlight that. If you're having dinner at 6, you can put that on there. Or if people are coming to visit, you can put that on there as well. And then that way you can wipe it clean and use it again the next week differently. And it will be a little bit bigger fonted than the calendar. As a caregiver, you're advocating for your person. So my third suggestion is advocating for yourself. In the midst of caregiving, we can lose ourselves, and it's common as a caregiver to neglect our own needs. I see it a lot. Caregiver depression is a really big thing. it is a silent crisis. I meet with caregivers all the time when I'm treating their loved one medically, and I'm looking at them and I know what I'm seeing, and I'll ask them the right questions and then suggest that they go see their doctor because actually what they're displaying is depression, but they just don't realize it because they've been putting their care, the person they're caring for, so much ahead of their own needs. So be an advocate for your own well-being. Recognize that taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's really super important. And it is a crucial aspect of being an effective caregiver. Um, we all experience that when we become mothers. We feel like doing things for ourselves is selfish because we're leaving our child. The same thing holds true when you become a caregiver. You are caring for somebody who is dependent on you for most activities of daily living. And you have to recognize that it is not being selfish. It's not selfish to ask for help. It's not selfish to take some time for yourself to get out of the house and get a breath of fresh air. Utilize support networks, schedule time for activities that you enjoy, and be proactive in preventing caregiver burnout because it is a real thing. Um, and depression. And if you feel those things, or if you feel angry or bitter by joining support groups, you'll find some support there. But if it's something that's staying in the back of your mind and you're not sleeping at night and you're not able to relax, or you just have this feeling that's persistent, then I'm going to suggest you go see your physician and talk to them about that, because maybe you do need a little bit of something to get you through this time period, and it might get better for you at a later date and time. But embarking on this caregiving journey is definitely a transformation. You go from being an independent person to having somebody who is dependent on you. But by prioritizing your well-being and establishing that thoughtful routine, advocating for yourself, and prioritizing your self-care, you can become more resilient. You're not alone in this journey. There's lots of other people out there like you. I will drop the group that I am actively involved in. There are tons of caregivers in there who are amazing and have amazing tips that help them on a daily basis. I would love for you to join me next week. We're going to actually be talking about burnout and the key indicators of what you might be experiencing if you're experiencing burnout. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. If you have any thoughts on how to navigate for someone who is in their early stages of their person being diagnosed with dementia, or noticing the changes, or somebody who's in the middle or at the late stages, please drop those below, because we're not alone in this journey. And the best way that we're going to make a difference and make a change and bring the care back to caregivers is by doing it together. I hope you have a great weekend and a great rest of your evening, and I hope to see you next week. Take care.